Topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Hello and welcome to Countywide. I'm your host, Jen Cohen. Today we are talking with Emily Hawley, who is the Director and Special Educator at Cupertino Power Learning School. We're going to be talking about autism spectrum disorder. It is a huge conversation. We only have 20 some odd minutes to squeeze it into, Emily, but we're going to do our best. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. Now tell me, how did you get involved with Cupertino?
Well, originally I went to school for musical theater and that didn't work out, and I came home, and when I got home my mom had signed me up for like 25 college courses in special ed because she knew I was interested. And from there I graduated from ASU with a special ed degree, and I found a really amazing school in Phoenix that worked with people with autism, or served people with autism, and they focused on the brain and the neurologic aspect of autism, which is the whole thing really. And I learned so much there, and then I came to Cottonwood and I started a school that has a similar philosophy, which focuses on sensory and sensory integration, motor planning, and presuming competence.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
No, how long has the school been in Cottonwood now?
Cupertino Power Learning Academy opened last year, so this is our second school year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now tell us, it's a huge thing, the definition of autism spectrum disorder.
Yeah.
What is it?
So autism spectrum disorder, more recently studies have shown that it really is a brain connectivity difference, and that a person with autism, the wiring in their brain is different than someone who's neurotypical. And a way that I think about that is when I lift up my arm, the same connectivity that the connectivity that happens in my brain, the same thing happens every time, and same for you. But someone with autism, if their wiring is off and different, if they go to initiate some kind of motor plan, even if it's one that they may have done before, it's a real challenge sometimes. And that leads into the idea of presuming competence, and then the idea of the spectrum, and why the spectrum seems to be, I think, confusing sometimes, because you use the terms low functioning and high functioning, and it seems like automatically people think that's a cognitive ability. But when you think about autism as someone who struggles with motor planning and something called psychomotor regulation, which is the starting, stopping, and continuing of motor planning, which can even be memories and thoughts and speech. So considering that, if you had a hard time initiating or inhibiting or continuing motor planning, speaking, you might be nonverbal. A lot of times people who are nonverbal are considered incompetent. But there are many people out there that are nonverbal, that struggle with controlling their body, with controlling their emotions, that are very competent and very smart and good people, and need different types of supports than you and I need in order to communicate and in order to control their bodies.
Right.
Because the other misconception is the idea of just wanting to be alone or not wanting to be involved in things because someone might be having some typical behavior for you and I that means we don't want to do something looking away or doing something nervously. But with a different type of support, there's a good chance that that person does want to be involved and does want to participate, but just needs something else in order to do so.
Certainly. We've come a very, very, very long way in studying this particular disorder. Yes,
another reason I started the school was I met these two gentlemen, Larry and Tracy, and they have a documentary called Wretches Jabbers. And I'm going to bring it here for you to watch.
Cool.
And these two gentlemen who are in their 40s and 50s now, they were institutionalized when they were younger, and they have autism. And they got out of the institution, I believe, in their 20s and 30s and started typing. And they get touch support to do this typing, and they're hilarious. They were so inspiring. They came to my school in Phoenix, and they made me feel like, okay, good, I know what I'm doing here. Because when you stand sometimes in front of a group of 15 kids and a majority are nonverbal, sometimes you're like, are you taking in what I'm saying? Am I teaching what you should be learning? And like I said, after meeting Larry and Tracy, watching that film, everybody would be inspired by that film, Wretches Jabbers. I felt inclined to go somewhere else than Phoenix that has a lot of supports for people with autism, and a place like the Verde Valley that had less. I feel really honored to have the program here.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know you're making an enormous difference
well, I'm trying.
in the area already.
Thank you.
Now, it's interesting how you're talking about there's high functioning versus low functioning.
Right.
And then how there's a stigma attached to autism as how it relates to intelligence, and it doesn't relate to intelligence whatsoever, is what I'm picking up.
So your cognitive ability may be, you may have a lower cognitive level when you have autism, and a more typical person might as well. I think for those who really struggle with controlling their bodies and struggle with communication, it's very hard to gauge what they do and don't understand, and what, so to be able to gauge what their intellectual level is might be challenging. But I suppose the biggest takeaway I would like people to have is, just because you can't speak doesn't mean you don't have something to say. And there are students who might have learning disabilities or other types of things that they need support with in order to excel in academics especially. But a big piece, especially starting with students that I'm serving at Cupertino, and I know a lot of other students in the Verde Valley, is to be able to support their communication so they can output what they know, and to be able to support their sensory needs, which includes a lot of exercising and structured movement, in order for them to control themselves to be able to output what they know. So yes, there could be cognitive delays and things like that, but I don't look at that as, I don't think that's the main piece of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a misconnected wiring.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
what we're getting.
Yeah.
That when your brain thinks, I want to move my right hand to get that pen, folks without autism can do that.
Right.
Folks with autism go, okay, now how do we get there from here?
And a lot of times, and the motor planning piece is so interesting when you look into it, or even if you know some about that, it is as simple as that. And for someone who needs to do something all the time, let's say you need to walk all the time, what do you have to do? Practice walking. If something that you were supposed to do in class all the time was raise your hand, but the first few times the person can't do it and needs all this physical support to do it, it doesn't mean they're never going to be able to. And maybe sometimes you step back and you think, is it worth it for you to raise your hand? Is there other ways to get my attention? But if it is, then let's keep practicing it, because how our brains work, I mean, now there's neuroplasticity. We know our brains continue to be able to make those connections. So sometimes you just have to repeat things, and I think sometimes we all struggle with patience with such a thing.
Certainly. Now, about when does autism spectrum disorder show up in the human body?
I think usually diagnoses occur between age 2 and 3. It's pretty common.
Interesting. Are you finding with the greater knowledge that we have of the disorder, are you finding that people are getting diagnosed later in life, that maybe it's been missed, that maybe they've been shoved aside?
I think there's a lot of, why is there so many people with autism now, you know, when before that didn't happen? And I would just assume, just like many things, it's for various reasons. One is now there are more resources. Even in a smaller place like the Verde Valley, there are resources here that people can get for autism. Therefore, they're looking for that diagnosis in order to be able to get those resources. Also, just like those gentlemen, Larry and Tracy, they were institutionalized. They weren't given that label of autism. They were given the label of probably mental retardation or something else. And then the idea of, yeah, there's probably a good chance it might be something in our environment that's increasing it as well.
That's a huge issue. Okay, we're going to take our first break.
Okay.
We're talking with Emily Hawley, who is the Director and Special Educator at Cupertino Power Learning School. Check out CupertinoPLA.com, and we'll be right back.
Listen to me. I am captain of the track team. And if I'm late,
She doesn't really think she's going to get out of here, does she?
Be nice, she's new.
Hello, is anyone there? Ugh!
Wow. Even from our standards, you look awful.
Oh, sweetie, what happened?
Me? My friend Becky got to talk to this super cute boy, and I tried to act like I wasn't jealous, but I so totally was. And then out of nowhere, this concrete barrier just popped up. Maybe it was a semi.
You mean you were driving?
Yeah. I mean, I know the whole eyes on the road thing, but this was a super important text. Maybe you have to know, Becky.
Texting? Great.
But it was only like 5 seconds, and I'm a really, really fast texter, so it wasn't even a big deal. Actually, has she texted me back yet? Wow, I get like no bars in this place. I wonder if they have Wi-Fi here.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
Q102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber.
You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
And welcome back to Countywide. I'm your host, Jen Cohen. We're sitting with Emily Hawley, who is the Director and Special Educator at Cupertino Power Learning School. We're talking about autism spectrum disorder, what it is, what it's not, how to diagnose it, what to do about it. That's why we're here. Emily, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so let's start. Where do we get diagnosis for something like this? What do you have to do?
Well, currently in the Verde Valley, the county is attempting to have a program here that supports people to get a diagnosis right, near their home. And they do have a physician there that can support a diagnosis. And I believe that program is trying to get funded, and they're still working on that. There's two doctors in Flagstaff, and then there's about 7 that are in Phoenix. And most of the time, schools, public school districts are also able to have psychologists support the diagnosis of autism.
What kind of things would lead up to a parent pursuing a diagnosis? What are just the top few little signs that they might see in their child?
Well, it is a developmental delay is one thing to consider, and especially now having my own children, I see in my own kids a lot some of the same phases or types of behaviors that my kids have, that my students have, but my kids are progressing through them quicker, but it's very interesting. So with that, those things that you hear about a lot, maybe avoiding eye contact and having different repetitive behavioral or motor planning patterns. I would say that those are probably maybe the 2 main ones, and someone that's sensory seeking or sensory avoiding. If you have a hard time regulating, that's a big piece of it, is being able to be regulated.
Which seems to be a big problem with children these days.
It is a big problem, and the idea of arousal is another thing we talk about a lot at Cupertino, and I talk about with people with autism, is your arousal level, and you and I are able to sit here and converse and take deep breaths if we need, or I might shake my foot if I'm getting a little uncomfortable, but if someone with autism, they might feel dysregulated or uncomfortable and not be able to process that in that way and make themselves comfortable again. It might get up and run out of the room or fall out of their chair or something that's a little less accepted.
Got it. The ability to just be.
Yeah, so exactly. So the ability to be comfortable and just to pretty much be in control. And then a lot of times too, because it's younger, the speech thing is a big piece of it. If your child isn't talking at the age you think that they should, maybe they just need some speech.
Get that checked out.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like we're getting the resources now, that we need. We've got the county going, the couple in Flagstaff, the bunch in Phoenix, so that's really good. Now, then what do we do? Then where do we go from there? What kind of support resources do we have in our area?
Well, there are Verde Valley OT, Lori Ritter, is a wonderful occupational therapist who works with a lot of people with autism around the valley. Ann Crawford Price is a speech therapist who also works with a lot of people with autism around the valley. Right at Cupertino, we have a physical therapist, Dave Dunyam, and he has been around, actually all 3 of those I believe have been in the Verde Valley a long time, which is a wonderful thing because some of my students, and then I know people at the public schools as well, they've been with those kids for a long time, and I've seen that that's very helpful. And also I know that the public school districts are doing their best to support these students, and I hope to continue to connect with them and partner with them, because autism is very unique and requires different supports that I don't think public schools are always used to having. I mean, even the idea, we do so much deep pressure. We give a lot of like squeezes, deep pressure squeezes, in order for the person to feel their body, which is called your proprioceptive system. And that itself, you know, there's not a lot of deep squeezes going on at public schools. And is that something that these students need? Yeah. Is it something maybe we could do down the road or people would be more comfortable with? Yeah. I mean, that's one example, you know. But I do think that I worked for Cottonwood Oak Creek for a couple years, and then I've also met with the Sedona School District, and I know that they do their best to support the students. And also there's an organization called Leap of Faith that just moved into the Cupertino Power Learning Center. And that organization provides advocacy for people and their families. They do tutoring for people with disabilities. And they also provide support for that person to get a neuropsych evaluation that's done in Flagstaff. And these parents that started Leap of Faith are very passionate about that neuropsych evaluation because it helped their own daughter with autism who graduated from NAU and lives in Flagstaff. And so they now want other parents to be aware of what that evaluation might be able to do. And that's a good example of one thing that might happen after your child's diagnosed with autism is you might feel absolutely bombarded by all these different opinions and ideas. But a big piece of it is just to really like look around and read different things and read things written by people with autism. And then, yeah, check out the resources that you have. And another big piece of it is once you do have a diagnosis, you go through DDD, the Department of Developmental Disabilities, and you'll get a case manager, and that case manager will support you to get habilitation and respite hours, which is care for you that you might be able to, your parents might be able to get someone else to help care for you. And then speech and things like that. And depending on your diagnosis and other things, depends on what resources that you get. So, and that case manager through DDD should be able to help you with that.
Oh, very good. Yeah. So don't freak out, basically.
Yeah, don't freak out.
Don't completely freak out if the diagnosis comes up. There is support. There's lots of resources. There's so many things written now. There's so much literature out there now helping educate people about autism spectrum disorder. It's become such an enormous issue in the United States for one reason or another that people are actually speaking out. Things are actually happening and popping to the benefit of the children and even adults with autism spectrum disorder. I know several adults, all of a sudden they go, oh, well, now we know what the issue is here. And it's an amazing thing when it's simply an adjustment of how someone is expected to do something or is treated or is asked or is given tasks in ways that they can manage that. So it's an awareness on the part of those of us that don't have it about those that do, and just shifting things here and there to create the ability for everyone to accomplish, you know, what they want to accomplish. It's a wonderful time, I think, for this, and Cupertino is doing a great job, and people like you are doing a great job. We've got to take another short break. Check out CupertinoPLA.com. We're talking with Emily Hawley, who is the Director and Special Educator over at Cupertino Power Learning School. We'll be right back with more Countywide, so don't go away.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
The Q102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber.
You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to Countywide. Just a few seconds left. I'm Jen Cohen. We're talking with Emily Hawley from Cupertino Power Learning School. She's the director and special educator there. We've been talking about autism spectrum disorder. Now tell us, the learning is a center. You know, it's a learning academy, but it's also a center. There's so much going on in there. Pretty much any resource we need can be found in Cupertino, it sounds like.
I'd like to think that one day for sure. Currently, Cupertino Power Learning Center has Cupertino Power Learning Academy, which is a private day school, an Arizona state-approved private day school that serves kindergarten through 12th grade students. And in Arizona, a person with autism or with a disability or IEP can go to school till they're 22. And then also at the center is Leap of Faith organization that I briefly spoke about that does the tutoring and advocacy. And they're just moving in. Actually, this past month they moved in. And then we also have a physical therapist office and clinic. And we also do a free community yoga class every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. And the teacher of the class has experience with people with autism and with disabilities. And our hope is just to have families come that maybe they don't have a place to do yoga, whether it's the parents or the siblings or the person with autism, and just to get some good yoga practice in each week. So anyways, that's nice. Tuesdays at 4 at Cupertino. And we are having an open house that's going to introduce Leap of Faith, and we're having all these other organizations that support people with disabilities, Rainbow Acres, Rusty's Ranch, some of those speech and OT clinics that I told you about. They'll have a table with their display and information. So we're hoping that on February 3rd from 1 to 3, families around the Verde Valley will come and can see the different resources, some that you and I have been talking about, to support their child here. And also to maybe learn more about Cupertino Power Learning Academy. I think there's a lot of questions about what a private school is, and you know what someone would do at a private school for people with disabilities. And what that is we do. My goal is to have a good combination of academics and life skills. We go in the community a lot. The students at Cupertino, we volunteer at Fresh Start Farm across the street from our school. We volunteer at the food pantry at Journey Church. And we love to go to the library, and pretty much we're in the community all the time. Not all the time, but a lot.
Excellent. So it's not just an autism spectrum disorder school. It takes, there are other
we're able to serve people with all different types of disabilities.
Okay. Yeah. That's great. Great. Okay, so the open house is February 3rd from 1 to 3 p.m.
1 to 3.
Lots of information there for you.
Bring your family. We'll have a jumpy house.
Hey, great.
That's a big sell.
Check out CupertinoPLA.com. If you go online, all the information is available there. We've been talking with Emily Hawley, the director and special educator over at Cupertino Power Learning School. Check it out online, CupertinoPLA.com. That's all the time we have left for Countywide. I'm Jen Cohen. We'll see you next time.